Hi, my name's John, and this is Business Update. In this week's episode, we'll be talking about how Blizzard is capitalizing on its business model of using microtransaction and play to win strategy to generate their massive revenue, which is seems to kind of working, even though it's kind of unethical if you think about it. And we're talking about the game here of Diablo Immortal here. And many of those, if you're a gamer or a avid fan of the game, it's a very popular game that has been translated to mobile free to play game, which is kind of interesting. So it's a free to play game, but there's always a catch to everything. And obviously, for companies like Activision to be able to generate substantial revenue, they have to find a way to recoup their investment, even though it's a free to play game. So they devise strategies to entice you to play at the very beginning, and as you get hooked on the game, eventually you will spend more money to be able to get better equipments, better results. Otherwise, you'll be slogging through or grinding, as they call it, to be able to finish it, which is based on many feedbacks that could take years or even decades to be able to do that. So we'll take a closer look on that one. So what's to be done about it, or is this types of games or strategies that companies are employing? Obviously, it's not just Activision, but you also have EA, who is known for employing such strategies. And the sad fact is they target specifically young kids here. So we'll take a closer look at that one as well. Anyway, so let's take a look at Diablo Immortal as mentioned. So this was recently launched early June. So obviously the game was met with excitement, obviously, for many of the what do you call this? The many avid fans who plays a lot of Diablo here, and for the very first time you're able to play the game mobile or free to play as well here. And based on the feedback, I mean, in terms of its gameplay, it feels like the same Diablo that you've accustomed playing in the past here. Obviously, you're able to play with your smartphone, and it's enjoyable to be able to do that. Now, if you're a PC gamer, if you own a Steam Deck, then double the fun. You can play in any platforms now, given that case. Now, the main focus here is not that the main core gameplay is the main issue here, but the main issue that I have with the game is how it tries to recoup, because it's free to play, so they don't make money if you just download the game here. Uh, so let's see here. What was it? Okay, here you go. So Diablo is a free to play mobile game. Its structure has been designed around the idea of frequent daily check-ins instead of instantly gratifying long play sessions here. So meaning it enforces a grind that prevents you from continuing on with the story if it's your primary focus, which is many of the gamers' primary focus. Even I like a good story, so I'll tend to binge play hours on ends to be able to accomplish certain progress in the game, whether it be story wise or side missions and whatnot here. And they go on to mention pushing you towards to completing daily bounties. So they're trying to control as to how much gameplay you are able to do here. Now, there are paid versions for battle passes offering you experience bonuses if you want to purchase it, and it would speed up this process significantly. So temptation to bypass feels present here, meaning pay to win, so to speak, is the term that many gamers use. So the main issue that I have here is Diablo Immortals microtransaction starts becoming more troublesome when you start playing the late game content here. So obviously, by the time you realize this, you're already hooked in playing the game. So you'll be left in a quandary as to do you proceed and throw away all the time that you've invested, or just simply pay up in front. And knowing this, I would have never started playing this game in the first place, knowing this ahead of time. And sad to say, that's not the case for the majority gamers here. Some are casual and don't even care or are willing to spend that amount of money, which reinforces what the companies like Activision is trying to capitalize, and they're you know they're getting away with it, so to speak. So it mentions the progression slows significantly, which impacts your ability to continue to subsequent playthroughs and increases your endgame paragon level. So the PvP or play person to person play is heavily reliant on the best gear. So obviously having the best equipment is important, and in order to be able to access that or have that, you need to play a substantial amount of time if you want to grind it out, which again reinforces the fact that they want you to here, why not just purchase this equipment for real world currency so that it can expedite your progression here, which is, and it's a double-edged sword here. The question here is, what is the game trying to do? Focus on the gameplay or focus on the microtransactions here? It's one thing if they're offering you skins so that you can try to differentiate in terms of your gameplay style, the characters, and so forth. But if it's a part of the core mechanic that they're trying to limit what you can and cannot do in terms of gameplay, can be harmful in terms of the experience, which I tend not to like. I'd rather pay a full-fledged game and enjoy or play to my heart's content in terms of the hours, tens of hours I'm going to invest in a particular game. And what's even worse, it's not the microtransaction is the prominent here, is also the random loot boxes, which is part of the equation here. So it generates random dungeons with enemies and boss for a brief, enjoyable loot rush. So they changed the formula slightly with Crest, of which different times that you ensure that the base rarity of items will be rewarded with. And again, the whole point is if it's a random loot, how can you get those important gems or items that you're trying to acquire here? And obviously, trying to reinforce again that maybe you want to make it easier for you and pay it out front, which I'm very dead set against it, because obviously then that's not part of playing anymore. That's already a different set of construct, meaning you're already paying for something, uh playing like a gambling type scenario here, wherein you're investing more money so that you'll be encouraged to play more. And obviously the randomness or the futility of the randomness of getting the best items that you're trying to target, similar to to a slot machine, then that's not what we're here to do, and that's not what the purpose of the game is supposed to be, which kind of disrupts the whole experience or immersion, so to speak. Now, this was mentioned in the review when it was initially launched, and the issue becomes more glaring, and try to stick with me here for a bit. Uh, According to a review, or one of the YouTubers I try to follow, Yong Ye. So I leave the link in the description, wherein they discuss, or he discusses, how a streamer try to test out how much is it going to cost you if you try to play to win the game in terms of getting the legendary gem. So it's a 5 over 5 star. So getting the first one cost him close to $16,000, which is a pretty significant amount of money. And this is where the hook for Activision is trying to capitalize for many gamers. And sad to say, for those who are not aware or don't care, are willing to spend, and it reinforces what Activision is trying to capitalize, which is make tons of money out of it, even though it's a free-to-play game here. And it goes on further when thinking about you're willing to spend hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, even tens of thousands of dollars, and imagine the number of players doing this. Now, my issue with EA is similar to what they're doing, but at least in Diablo Immortal, it's played by adults, so to speak. It's not catered to young adults. It's different, totally different when EA is trying to capitalize on the popularity of sports and trying to use those loot boxes, whether they call it Team Ultimate Packs or whatever they want to call it, just to circumvent the process here. And until legislation or the government comes in or steps in that states that loot boxes are considered gambling, then they should be held on a different set of standards, and they should pay a levy or a tax for doing so. And this is harmful for kids and for young adults as well here. And it goes on to mention that, sad to say, that even though there are a lot of negative reviews and complaints regarding the how the game is being portrayed or being implemented, well, the popularity of the game, reinforces what Blizzard is doing works for them, and they will continue to leverage that moving forward here. The fact that in this article, according to PCMag.com, that they've earned more than $24 million in the first 2 weeks alone, meaning the popularity of the game is tremendous, and a lot of people are trying to check it out now. Obviously, they wouldn't know what the mechanic is later on, so by the time they realize, so you're stuck in a hard and rock place, whether you want to waste all of your investment and stop playing, or continue push through by purchasing those microtransactions. And here's a very interesting data that they showcased here. So it was mentioned that Diablo Immortal has been downloaded over 8.5 million since June 2nd, has earned them 24 million. So meaning, it's capitalizing on the minority who is willing to spend an exorbitant amount of money. And if you did the math, where's my phone? Lost my phone. There you go. So if you think about it, around 8 million users who initial, and I think as of this recording, it has already grown to around 10 millions downloads or users who's using it. So imagine that out of 10 million, if they were able to only get a small percentage, 1%, 1% of their population, so to speak. So that's roughly around 100,000, right? And those 100,000 people are willing to spend 10,000 each. That would have generated them 1 billion already. So if you think about it, they're looking at the probability that even if it's a small population, but it's a very lucrative one, which is catastrophic, which reinforces, that they should pursue other games and incorporate these types of strategies, because it creates more high return for their business, but it corrupts the our society in terms of getting hooked and using real world currency to buy those items here, which is kind of funny. You can do it one way, using real world currency, meaning your money, to buy those in-game items. But if you were to acquire those items, let's say you want to sell it back, you can get back your actual money, which is kind of funny, which means that they're trying to ensure that they hold on to those monies that you already spent in the first place here, which is kind of concerning here. And as much as I don't like what the company is doing here, as long as it's advertised, people are aware. Obviously, the gamers has to be responsible. Obviously, legislation has to step in and you know uh, categorize whether what those companies like Activision and EA are doing are considered legal or not. Whether ethically, that's a different long-term discussion here. And obviously, considering the many issues that people are involved with the current society, as mentioned, and at the end of the day, would this matter to a casual gamer? And based on a recent article here at metro.co, Diablo Immortal mentions here proves that the general public doesn't care about the video game. So meaning casual gamers just want to play a little bit then stop playing. And again, in terms of the bell curve here, they're expecting not many will pay those microtransactions to enjoy the game, but they're focusing on the small subset, and that small subset is going to get them a significant return in terms of their investment. So the question is, do we want that moving forward? And what's scary is that may spill over to other types of games, and other publishers will see that it's a business model that's very lucrative and enticing, and they're trying to replicate that. And that's concerning that other, not just publishers, but also gaming companies like Sony, Microsoft, or eventually even Nintendo would capitalize on it. But there's still a lot of games that doesn't do that. Obviously, understanding that if you lose the attention of your games, long term wise, they may not come back and play your games, knowing what you're trying to do here. So it's kind of a complicated situation, but it is what it is. So knowing what you're getting into is important, and creating awareness is another discussion that's important to share with the public here. Whether I agree or not, the question is what does the majority is willing to do here, and whether that's beneficial for the gamers or not. Then we have to do something about it. Anyway, I think that's it for this week. So come back again on Wednesday for more business update. As always, don't forget to continue supporting the channels. Thank you for hitting the like and subscribe button. And if you enjoy this, don't forget to continue supporting the channel. As always, I'll see you in the next one.